Good evening. This is William Gamer, Time Witness One, and I have a few updates tonight. Um, if nobody comes in tonight, they will be here tomorrow. Oh, I see four people just popped in. Good evening, everybody. Uh, it has been a rather interesting day today, and I'm going to get into one aspect of this. Um, There were some motions filed in the Neely Blanchard trial case, and that's not what I wanted. I'm sorry. I'm trying to cue something up here, and I don't know. Oh, it's in here. No, this is okay. I don't know where the window went, but oh, it's over here. No, it's not over there. Wonder why. Okay, well, let me see if this is. Yep. Okay. Had a software issue. Anyway, there was a filing in the court that I had told you folks around it. It happened around the 12th this month, and the files were locked, and they have just become unlocked. And there's quite a bit to go over here. Now, first of all, is this the defendant wanted to continue the pretrial hearing scheduled for April 27th. Um, and this is basically um, what they have stated. And to answer a question, uh, not that I'm aware of. I don't think anybody has seen Tim with their own eyes. He certainly hasn't been taking any selfies, but you know, I think he may be having reason to hide here in the next couple of weeks, but we'll see. And basically, the defense argues that all discovery efforts have been completed. However, the undersigned is still awaiting a report from Dr. Henry Kropp Association with the defense uh, theory or defendant's theory of defense, insanity at time of occurrence. The undersigned has spoken to Dr. Kropp and has good faith to believe that Dr. Kropp's final report will provide appropriate predicate to allow counsel to file a notice of intent to rely as temporary insanity as a defense. So they are going for, um, or intend to announce that they're going to go towards insanity, according to this document. Defendant has previously waived speedy trial, and the state waives any objection. And so they want to continue the pre-trial scheduled for February 2nd, 2023, be granted and placed on the July 20th, 2023 pre-trial docket at 8:30 a.m. So if this motion had been granted, we would not be doing anything with the Neely Blanchard trial until sometime after July. However, let me do something here. Bring up this. And the judge has denied their request for a continuance. And let me get this over a little bit. Now, let me take that back a little bit because it's. Anyway, the judge, let's say the judge gives her reason for denying this, I believe. The cause came before this court on defendant's motion to continue for continuance of the April 27th pretrial conference. This court reviewed the motion and the court file and is fully advised in the premises. Therefore, it is ordered and adjudicated that the defendant's motion is denied. Defendant shall appear for pretrial conference on April 27th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. So that was a quick denial on the part of the judge. And so that is that. Now we move on. I don't know, this may be a relatively short night. We'll see what happens. Let me bring up the next list here. Now, this was another entry that was made by the defense counsel, one which had been locked until today. And so I got word from the court. And basically, what it says here is defendant Neely Blanchard by notice of intent to rely on defense of insanity. Now comes the defendant Neely Petrie Blanchard by and through her assigned attorney pursuant to Rule 3.216C, Florida Rule of Criminal Procedure, gives notice of her intent to rely on defense of insanity in this clause. The following matters are submitted of this notice. First, the names and addresses of witnesses of whom the defendant expects to show such insanity insofar as possible are as follows: Dr. Harry Kropp, Kathy Sue Watson, Savannah Hendricks Series, Susan Blanchard, Shannon Tennis, and Jamie Grubbs, and Mark Scott of Ocala. Additional documents will be utilized as referenced in the discovery process, and also documents referred in Dr. Harry Kropp's report relating to the psychological evaluation of the defendant dated April 11th, 2023, wherein specific documentations identified to support the doctor's diagnosis of the evaluation. The nature of the insanity that the defendant expects to prove efforts is referenced in Dr. Kropp's psychological opinions as referenced in his April 11th, 2023 report. The gravamen of which predicates that the defendant was, quote, evidently maintaining delusional beliefs through an apophenic process, and that meant the diagnostic criteria for psychological disorder with marked stressors and psychosis dissipation. I hereby certify that a true and correct copy of the foregoing has been sent by e-service transmission on the 17th day of April 2023 to Amy Murt, Esquire, State Attorney, blah, blah, blah. And so basically, the state attorney is going to argue, yeah, that's exactly what this is showing, that uh, she is innocent due to temporary insanity. Seems to be the plea that the attorney plans on having put forth, and this has always been uh, the case. And I'm trying to. Okay, we've got more. And this one is titled a little different. Well, this didn't come out right. Let me remove this and get. I want to share this properly, so let's go back. Yeah, that looks better. Now, we go down and review this document, and says the defendant was initially arrested on November 20th, 2020. Two, that the discovery process has been ongoing, that a mental health expert, Dr. Kropp, psychologist, was retained after all discovery had been subsequently completed on May 11th, 2022, for the purposes of evaluating defendant's competency and for her mental state at the time of the incident. Dr. Kropp's efforts associated with the activity at Osho, yeah, I never. Uh, which comment are you talking about, Glow? Well, let's go on. So, let me just double check. Yeah, I took it off. Uh, let me get back to what it was. Um, was substantially completed on May 11th, 2022 for the purposes of evaluating defendant's competency and her mental state at the time of the incident. Um, Dr. Kropp's efforts associated with with that activity has been ongoing and have been well documented throughout. Dr. Crop had an extended and prolonged and periodic interactions with the defendant while she is housed at the Marion County Jail. Dr. Crop's opinion relating to the issue of insanity at the time of the incident did not come into fruition until April 11th, 2023, wherein a report concerning same was provided to undersigned counsel. Oh, okay, glue. That's or glow. That's understandable. Thank you. All right, let's see what we got. The undersigned could not, in good faith, file a notice of intent to rely upon insanity without the supporting documentation obtained from a trained mental health professional. Once the information was received from Dr. Crop, it was timely to it was timely disseminated to the state and the appropriate motion filed under Florida Rules of Procedure associated with the filing of the notice into consideration good cause as a predicate for the delay in the filing. This cause has not been set for trial. There is no prejudice raised with the state. Failure to follow the reliance upon an insanitary defense would, in fact, be prejudicial to the defendant for obvious reasons and through no fault of her own. Wherefore, it is requested that leave be afforded to the defendant to file this notice of intent to reply upon sanity as a defendant for pretrial purposes as timely filed. I hereby certify, and so on and so forth. Now, this is basically it that Neely Blanchard is going for an insanity plea. This is something that I had contended was going to happen early on in this case, that there was going to be an intent to have an insanity plea. Tim Holmes said, no, that ain't happening, but it is. Now, there has been other developments in this case today. Um, now, as you all may recall, Randy Lynn Erickson claims to have additional information that she received from Neely Blanchard. And she will only turn this over to the defense counsel if Neely signs a form giving her permission to do this. Now, the thing of it is that if Randy Erickson does have this evidence and does not turn it over because of this failure to get a release from Neely Blanchard, this would be a felony. She is withholding evidence in a murder trial in a capital case. It's obstruction of justice, and she would be summarily arrested. Now, what is probably going to happen in the very, very near future, since this has now been brought to the attention of the state attorney's office, is she is going to be receiving a summons. And that summons is going to require her to give a deposition either in Florida or wherever she lives. And she may well wind up being called as a witness for the prosecution and be required to come to the state of Florida to testify under oath. And if it turns out that this be the case, she will be declared a hostile witness, which means that the prosecution could have her answer leading questions since she is takes care of that. Since she uh, is obviously a biased witness on the side of Neely Blanchard. Now, there is so much going on, I don't even know where to begin. This is, but I think they know it's coming because I have been going through the discovery that was applied, that I applied for through the district court. And to say I am shocked about what I have listened to and read would be an understatement. Um, there is going to be stuff coming out as things go forward. Now, on my next segment to a prelude to murder, I will be uploading all body cam footage that I received. There's a number of them, and there's quite a lot of them, and I'm going through them now to figure out how I'm going to display them. There's one body cam that I may have to edit because it stops. It keeps going, but it stops. I think the officer's body cam froze up or something happened, and I'm going to try and see if I can correct it. I have talked to the state attorney, and they are going to send me another copy of it, and we'll see if this corrects the problem. I should have that tomorrow. If it doesn't, I'll just deal with it. It's quite a long body cam anyway, so you know, 90% of what is appropriate is in that body cam footage. I also have to figure out how to show the body cam footage as close to the actual timeline as possible because there was body cams over an extended period of time. And I also have some audio recordings that may be included in this particular section since it applies. Otherwise, the recordings will be in a separate um, recording. There's then going to be other evidence that I will be uploading to the series in the future weeks. And I will announce when the body cam footage will be uploaded. Um, yeah, Glow, it's going to be interesting. It gives, what this does is gives an idea of how law enforcement operates in a situation like this. And there are some things that come out in this sequence that better explains what was going on during the 911 call. So, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a check and see what's going on here because this is all I really had. And so this may, somebody doesn't get the message that they're not welcome in here. That's stalking task force. And, task force is real desperate to get in this room. She's upset. That's stalking. Yeah, I think there's going to be an audit, all right, and it's going to be something totally different, especially when some of the audio comes out after the body. The audio, I almost reversed the order because this material that I've been reviewing is so important, but I've decided to keep things in relative order. So the body cam is going to be the next episode, and then after the body cam airs, I will be putting up um I will be well, I'm gonna put this up for the hell of it because apparently apparently task force does not know how the court works. I'm going to explain this, because apparently the task force seems to think that there's no such thing as the Freedom of Information Act. Any government agency is required under the law to comply with a Freedom of Information request if the information doesn't compromise any investigation or anything else. So I don't know what kind of audit you're going to run on the court because anyone can apply for this information. You can petition the court, say, I want all discovery evidence in this case, and you'll get it. Anybody can get it. There's nothing special about it. So, you know, um, anything is possible. One thing you learn is you cannot predict what a jury is going to do. Now, both the defense and the prosecution are going to ask the jury a series of questions, and they are going to determine whether or not that juror is going to be on the panel. Um, Both the defense and the prosecution can accept or reject a potential juror. Now, I believe the number of objections or rejections of a juror are limited on either side. I'll have more complete information on that as we get closer to the case. But um, again, we have to live with a premise that Neely is innocent and until proven guilty by a jury of her peers. And so the defense and the prosecution will argue before the court. They'll bring in their witnesses, they'll bring in their evidence, and then it's the jury that will decide this. None of us on the internet is going to decide this case. It's going to be decided by a jury. This is a jury trial. And so that is what we have to wait for. And I'm going to disagree with this one. No one deserves to be murdered. Um, if anything, yes, Chris Hallett should have been arrested and put in jail, but it does not justify his being murdered. So it's going to be up to the state and the defense to argue their case, and then they are going to decide what Neely's fate is going to be. Now, it's my understanding that Neely has confessed in some form to murdering Chris Hallett. And when I provide the evidence for you folks to study, you can determine if she confessed or not. Um, but it's one of these things where um, we can sit here and theorize and do hypotheticals and everything else, but it is ultimately the decision of the jurors. Um, well, the thing about it is, Levi, he deserved to be punished, but I would have preferred him to be punished through the courts and a jury of his peers rather than be murdered in cold blood in his house. You also have to remember there is a 91-year-old woman out there who is out of a son. She probably had no idea what's going on. She was living over there, minding her own business, being a 91-year-old woman who happened to have her son living on the other side of the building. But she has outlived him at 91 years old, and I'm sure that she's not taking this well. I don't know how they handled telling her about it or the circumstances. And the son is also out of a father, and so is the rest of the family. But um, Neely was enraged that she had been made a fool of, and she has made this clear. And it will become clear when the material I have comes out. And I guarantee you, people are going to understand why Neely did what she did. Um, so we're going to have to see what impact all this has on the case. Will the jury buy it or will they not? And this is something that I had warned people about, and Timmy can argue until he's blue in the face, but I actually warned him that one of these days, these people barging in on these CPS disputes were going to anger somebody, and that something similar to this happened. And it wasn't very long after I said that uh, Chris Hallett was shot, and she was. So far, we have learned that Neely Blanchard had been in the house for 2 days working on her case. She had been staying, I believe, at a nearby hotel. And I can tell you the Chris Allen's house is quite a ways from the nearest hotel, which would be somewhere in southwest, excuse me, Ocala. And so she may have driven back and forth. But um, that's where we stand here. But I can tell you that from going through all this evidence that I have, it has given me a new perspective on Neely Blanchard, um, her personality, how she conducts herself, and how she became convinced that Chris Hallett deserved to die in her mind. So that's what we're going to, please stay tuned as I bring this stuff out. Um, I will, I will make a notification on Twitter when the segment uh, about the body cams will be ready to be aired on this channel. Um, so just stay tuned. Yeah, Rebecca, she did snap. This is why this defense is coming up. It's known as blind rage. She just got so enraged because she was tricked and made a fool of and realized that she was not getting her children back, that she just went into a this blind rage and killed Chris Hallett. Now, when you get into intent, um, this is going to be where we're going to get into. I don't know if Nancy Grace is following this case at all. I imagine as it gets close to trial and um, some of the details of this case come out, she may very well be interested in it. We'll have to wait and see. But now we get into the prosecution argument about intent and this not being a, I don't know what you'd call it, just something that just all of a sudden she decided to kill him. This was planned out. She got a gun and brought it to the house. This is going to come out. And so they're, you know, premeditated is what they call this. It's premeditated capital murder. And this is what the defense has to argue. Well, Randy and these people throw these terms around um, without really understanding what they are. First of all, a notary does not have the power to this sort of thing. A notary is nothing more than a witness to either a statement or documentation. A notary doesn't go into court and argue cases or file these kind of briefs. That's a lawyer's job. Randy, whether she believes this or not, is fooling all those people over in their little call in these various social medias. There just is no audit powers or anything. This is all sovereign citizen philosophy. They don't believe in our legal system. They call it admiralty law and all this Cucamonde stuff. And the problem with this is this time around, it is going to get them in trouble. Now, Tim Holmseth put up a article on his blog, and I'm going to read a little bit of it because this is funny. So let me go over to timothycharleshomseth.com, and then Timothy Charles. Okay, maybe it's on the bit shoot that I'm looking for. Okay, FBI deputies monitoring Timothy Charles Homseth news coverage of the Neely Blanchard murder trial. This is actually true. And Timmy is eventually going to find out why. I don't know if he just put this up on the top of his head and said that, oh, the FBI is investigating me and it's not true. But unfortunately for Holmseth, it is true. And it's true because of developments that have been happening for quite a period of time. And the proof of that will be coming out in the coming days. Tim Holmseth has no idea what kind of trouble everybody is in here and who is responsible for getting them in this trouble. But it will be in part 3, which will come after part 2, the body cam footage. It's either going to be part 3 or part 4. It just depends. There's some fill-in material that I have to do after part 2 to determine which segment this information is going to be put in. But if I were Tim Holmseth, I would not take anything for granted right now. He seems to think that this is going to blow over and he's going to make all his little money on all of this. But, hi, Catherine, welcome. But that is not going to be the case. There is going to be things come out that are going to have a lot of people having a Maalox moment. that there not going to be any audits or any of this crap. Um, they're not going to be in a position to audit anybody um, after the part three of this series comes out, because the information that is going to be contained in part three is going to be devastating to Tim Holmseth and the PPTF and E-Clause. And, this is going to have an effect. Now, I don't know how much of an effect this is going to have. I am a very small YouTube channel, so my reach isn't there. In spite of having all this information directly from the state of Florida, I don't have the reach for too many people to realize exactly what's going on here. That may change. I don't know. But at this point, Homeseth can be grateful that I'm such a small channel, that very few people are going to see this material, and we'll just have to see what happens. It's like I said, one of the reasons I like this being shared is so the information gets out to as many people as possible, so they all know the truth about who Holmseth and all these other people are, and the effect that they had on people, and certainly the effect they had on Neely Blanchard. Um, it's people got caught up in this group who became victims because they thought that Chris Hallett was the real thing. They thought Timothy Charles Homseth was the real thing, and so on and so forth. But at least it'll be archived here as to what happened. And what the hell is this? Tech Point Rosewood 691. Who the hell is that? I ain't got time for this. I think that's my old username for a place that I have. But I would hope that journalists, Glow, would attach themselves to this. They can get the very same information I have. They have a far bigger reach. If we can get the large journalists, the ones with the big audiences and the big reach, then the truth about what happened here and why will come out. And that may be the beginning of the end of all these scams. So, for right now, the body cam footage is going to show what happened at the crime scene and in other places if enough evidence comes my way. And then when we get to the comment, or when we get to part two, that will get into what happened once Neely was arrested and immediately after. And there's a boatload of information in the third segment. That's why I almost switched this around, because it's actually got a lot of information. So part three is definitely one that people are going to want to watch once it goes up. It's a complicated segment. I have to do a lot of editing work to get things squared up. But once it is, I think it's going to be worth watching. As for the body cam, it's I will probably do the chat during the body cam and try to explain things as best I can, because body cams footage is generally not the most exciting thing in the world, other than the fact that there are some things that occur with these body cams that are going to help put the pieces together as far as what happened the day that Chris Allott was murdered and into the next day. So we will have a lot to digest here. So stay tuned for when I uh, get things organized. Yeah, I watch um, your videos on Danny. He's heading for a world of hurt himself. Eventually, um, things are going to catch up with this idiot. Um, some, he's already been involved in some scuffles, and one of these days, someone's going to beat the crap out of him because he doesn't understand that people don't like him. They don't like what he has to say, and he puts himself where he's not wanted. And you know, these are younger people he's talking to. They have tempers, and they will act on their tempers, and he's going to suffer for it. I suggest that Mr. Uh, Preacher Dan do something different, while spreading his so-called word, and put a barrier between him and these people that don't like him very much. And yeah, he owes Craig a lot of money, and honestly, I don't know how Craig's going to get it, and I really haven't seen Craig Sawyer make much of an effort to get this money. I think he was happy just to show that he's an idiot, but he should at least try and get something out of this. But that's up to Craig Sawyer. Oh yeah, there's a another update here, um, and this is about the David Strait situation. And I'm going to bring up um, some information that I've seen about David Strait and about Bonnie Thomas. So let me see. Now, let me. Boy, someone's chomping at the bit to hear this stuff. Just wait. You're going to be in for a pleasant surprise. I did get your message, by the way. Now, let's see. Where do I want to go? I think I want to go over here. Yep, he's another Timmy. He just sits there and he gets money. He's got uh, someone in the business of um, the airline business that gives him discounts. So he's running around um, basically on the cheap. You wouldn't believe how cheap this guy is traveling, and so he got lucky. He got in to a sweet deal, and it's allowing him to go bouncing around to all these different places and living off the grift. Now let's see, Patriot grift or whatever. Yeah, Patriot grift. And the story goes like this: Timothy Charles Holmseth has been on a campaign to spread doubt regarding the Delphi murder case. So much so that he has traveled to Delphi, Indiana to take photos in front of the city sign with his book while blaming others for being the bridge guy. This was recently posted on Twitter, and one has to admit that Holmseth looks very much like Bridge Guy. Murderers do go back to the scene of the crime. Is that why Holmseth went to Delphi? It seems Holmseth is spending an awful lot of time blaming others when he looks like the guy. Something to definitely think about and maybe alert Delphi police about. Now, this is over on Substack, or whatever you call that thing. And Patriot Grift is the author. So you may want to go over there and follow him and read that. It's Substack, I believe. Um, so, okay. All right. And I got a quick update on David Strait and Bonnie. Um, she had a hearing um, yesterday. Bonnie is facing close to 40 years, plus she owes tens of thousands in court fees. She has a tough road ahead of her. Now, this was sent to me by someone that I believe is on David Straight's side in the matter. Um, and so that's the tip I got. And I will be waiting for the source to give me more information as it comes along. But for you that don't know, Tim or David and Bonnie were arrested leaving a hotel in Texas, and um, Bonnie Bonnie Thomas wound up getting the book thrown at her. And as far as I know, to this day, she is still incarcerated. And there was a bit of confusion about the case numbers. But apparently, what has happened is she had problems from an earlier case, and then she had this case. And what they did is they converted the cases and now there's just one overall case that they're dealing with. And so um, I've gotten tied up with the Neely Blanchard case, and I haven't had time to go over and see what the hell's going on over there. But it would appear that um, Bonnie Thomas has got herself a bit of a problem. And so we'll just have to keep an eye on that. And hopefully, the people that are giving me the information will keep me updated so that I can in turn update you. But there are uh, message boards and forums and so forth that you folks can go to keep apprised of any information that I do not have right now. Because again, I have not been uh, following the case that closely. And thank you. This is the uh, website that had the information that I just read off. And Patriot also has other articles there that are of interest. So you may want to check him out. And there's another Substack website over there by Deep State Dave of all people, whoever that is, and that's also worth a read. Um, Deep State likes to get um, well, he probably is, but the problem is I don't know if he's going to be able to. Um, from what limited facts I've been told, I don't think Bonnie can get out because the nature of her problem. So that's just something we're going to have to follow on a daily basis and see exactly um, what the situation is. Well, Timothy thinks everybody is everybody. He thinks I'm Whitey Bulger. And thinks that three or four people are the bridge guy. Um, but Levi is not deep state Dave. Um, so that's Timmy can believe what he wants. You're not gonna change people's mind when it comes to that idiot. I believe so. I believe this was a felony failure to appear. And the weapon charge came about, I believe, because it's alleged that she brought a gun into the courtroom. Kind of reminds me of a movie I saw once. But that's a big no no. You don't bring a gun into court. And so I think she got a felony weapons charge based on that. Well, yeah, thanks for that information, Glow. Yeah, I believe Glow has been following their case very close. And any update on Tracy Joe's case? Um, Nothing that I've heard. They're probably in a waiting period for getting the calendar set up. That's something that's going to have to be checked into. Um, and I'll tell you, doing anything through the Denver court up there is a pain in the ass. I found that out when I was researching the Cynthia Absug case. It's the same court. So this is going to be a rather interesting um, thing to research and see exactly what's going to happen with that. But she is facing federal charges, both her and her companion. So they're in some real deep doo doo when it comes to um, that situation. And another thing I'm going to bring up that I found rather funny is IPT said that Timmy has a different version of the 911 call than I have. And I would certainly like to know where he got his version from, since I got my version directly from the court. It's a federal court, or state court actually, that provided me this information under the Freedom of Information Act and the Florida Sunshine Laws. So there's where he got his version from is anyone's guess. Maybe somebody that knows the audio version of a Photoshop just made something up. I wouldn't put it past him, but you know, and I really haven't paid much attention to his version because I haven't had time. Eventually, I'll listen to it and see exactly what that's all about. Yeah, things are relatively quiet. So, but that's okay. No news is good news, I guess. Yeah, there's no probability about it, Catherine. They are lying. Um, the recording, I haven't heard to see what this is. He's made different interpretations of the um, recording I provided from the court. They came over and took my um, live stream, put it on their um, channel without giving me or giving the link to my channel. They just stole it, which is basically plagiarism. That's something that Tim Holmseth is alleged to do quite a bit. The Yeah, the thing about that, number one, it's a very bad recording. Uh, but you got to understand, this woman that when made that call had just experienced a very tragic moment. She witnessed um, Chris Hallett being murdered right in front of her, and she was afraid that Neely Blanchard was going to murder her too if the gun had not jammed. Uh, And so, you know, you can't fault the woman with making a mistake. But again, the prosecution will, if they put that evidence in the case, the defense has the ability to challenge it. And if they want to say that there is something wrong with what was said in that recording and so forth, that's their prerogative as an advocate for their client. And so again, this is where the jury is going to have to decide if she's guilty or not guilty, and if she is guilty but insane by reason of temporary insanity. And all that will do is she will be spared the death penalty, and um, there would be other provisions open to her. But I believe she's still going to get life in prison. Plus, she has other cases that she has to deal with. The matters in Kentucky have not been resolved. Um, well, Kirk is going to be a material witness in the case. He was deposed in his hometown, and he will be more than likely coming to Florida because um, of his testimony. And believe me, there's other reasons to think that Kirk Pendergrass is going to be coming to Florida. I can almost guarantee it. I say almost because you never can guarantee things in these matters. But there's a lot about Kirk Pendergrass that will be coming out in the coming weeks. And it's going to be one of these things where you people are going to be in shock when some of this stuff comes out. I did not imagine what I was going to see when I started going through the evidence. It's just boggles the mind of what's going on here. This, um, if this case doesn't get a lot of attention as things come out, I will be very surprised because this thing is going to blow up real quick. And a lot of people are going to be going, what in the actual frack is going on here? Because it's one of this is one of these cases where you know people are going to be interested. I know those of us who have been following the Blanchard situation from the beginning are going to be interested in it. And I can't wait to put this stuff out there because it's dynamite, literal dynamite. So, be sure to subscribe, like, hit the notification button, and share because all hell is going to be breaking loose over the next few weeks. And it's most important that you hit the notifications so that you can be around when I put this stuff up. There's more coming in every day from the court, and the mountain of evidence that I have may not be the end of all this. There may be new stuff coming out as this goes forward. But for right now, a week from tomorrow, the pretrial hearing takes place. This is something of a housekeeping thing that the courts do before trial. This trial is not going to be delayed. There's not going to be any continuances. As far as I can see, I certainly hope not. But if everything goes as planned, things are going to start rolling here by the end of May, by the last week, week or two in May. So, yeah, Glow, everybody watch out for my tweets. and I will do promotional videos as things go forward. Now, I did the video on the body cam, and so that gives you a little bit of a sample in there of what to expect with the body cam footage. Uh, but I'm hoping that I am providing um, the proper information to all you folks. I'm doing the best I can with it. I'm not a professional at this, and I'm not a media agent for the FBI. I'm not Whitey Bulger and yada yada yada. So I'm just a little guy running a little channel and doing the best I can. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate your support, and I'll try to do the best I can with you. And so, with that, I'm going to wish everybody a good night. Um, Enjoy your day. Um, Laurie, pet those puppies for me. You got some adorable little barkers there, fur balls, and so on. Um, I like watching them as they grow up. There won't be some big doggies running around. And so, everybody to go out, live the good life, get away from the internet for a while and just enjoy what there is to enjoy out there in the real world. And we'll see you again. Um, I may or may not be on tomorrow. I will probably be on Friday and Saturday. So stay tuned. Uh, this is William K. Murt, Witness 1. Wow, doing a lot of tongue twisting tonight. This is Murt Witness 1, wishing everybody a good night and have a good one. Bye bye. God.